Welcome to another episode of Wolfpack. I'm your host, Lavelle Revels. Today we have special guests with us. We'll start off with Michaela Boyd. She has a web series, Noir Stories. Definitely check that out. We have Anar Field in the house. He is the head of B3C, multimedia specialist. And we also have Kisa Carey in the house. You can check her out. Her film, Power of Music, will be debuting in March. So definitely check that out. So what's going on,
Yeah,
guys? How's it
hey,
going?
It's going
Hello.
good.
it's
It's
good to
going
see
good.
Going
y'all.
great.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So, I know it's kind of late on this topic, but I want to bring it up because I feel like this will be a good discussion amongst us. So, Jaleel Wright basically said Family Matters doesn't get enough credit because it's not considered quote unquote hood. So, what are your guys' thoughts on that? What you think?
So for me, I always give Family Matters credit because that was one of my favorite shows that I would watch. And I wasn't born per se, like when it first came out. So I would always watch the reruns. And I loved watching reruns of that.
Yeah.
Like that was what I would watch. And it's probably my second favorite, obviously behind Fresh Prince. Some things just aren't beatable.
Mhm.
But I would like to say that I don't agree with his statement because not most of the shows that we watch are not exactly in the hood. Like I think of the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He's in Bel Air now. He's not in the hood. I think of Martin, not in the hood. I think of the Cosby Show, not in the hood.
Mhm.
Most of these successful shows, it's a different world, not in the hood. And I think that where he's coming from is probably from a place of thinking that he's not black enough and kind of taking that out with the show. And I feel like that's not the case. I feel like, he's black, he's done some great things. His show, it's done great things. It's, done numbers. And that's something to be proud of. It's not, I feel like there's no place for him to think that we don't want him in our community. I personally love the work that he's done and he seems like a great person.
Oh, okay. Well,
Ladies first.
thank you, thank you. I will say this. Do I think that it stood the test of time culturally, like some of the other smash series of the time, like In Living Single, Fresh Prince? I don't know that it did as well as those as far as the cultural standouts, but it definitely has its place. It definitely has its stamp. We all knew and loved Stefan, and we all had the little quips of Urkel. So, I mean, I it's unfortunate that he feels that way. It definitely has its place in the culture, but again, I personally don't think that it stood the test of time as far as it being still as culturally relevant and as funny as some of the other shows still are. Because I can still watch an episode today of Fresh Prince of a Living Single, and I'm gonna cackle just like I did back in the '90s, maybe more so that I understand the
Yeah.
humor now.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it was a good show, and again, culturally, we acknowledge them. So,
Yeah. I believe that he has more of a cultural impact than what he's giving himself credit.
Yeah.
Like the whole nerd, like for me, I speak for myself. Like I've been a nerd my whole life, And back then it was not popular. Like for real, before Urkel, you did not want to be called a nerd. Like that was just not it. And it didn't help that my name was Bernard, so it was like I was being called Bernard
yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
But when Steve Urkel hit the scene, I was in the sixth grade, and that's when I found out. I was like 12. So when that was introduced, I didn't know about it until I was going to school. And people was like, "Ah, you're like Steve Urkel," and I'm like, "What's Steve Urkel?" Whatever. It's like, watch Family Matters, and I was like, "No, I don't know what that is." And then when I watched it, and then I saw the character pop up, I was like, "Oh my god, like not this guy." Like I'm being compared to this, but he made it cool over time, and that's where I think we get like the whole blurred, terminology from and stuff like that. And golly, that blurred community is like where it's at, And I will also have to give credit to Pharrell because he did the whole nerd thing as well. So I think that he has had he's left his footprint, his print on the black community. But I agree with you, like it is not given as much credit, but not because it's not a black show.
Right.
I don't know why it's not getting the love that it deserves. It deserves a whole lot more love than not than the other shows, but alongside the other shows. I don't even quote Family Matters. Like, of course I do that, but that went out with what's up. So
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you really think about it, out of like all the black shows, who's embodied their character the most? Like out of all the black shows, the main character who's embodied it. Like when you look at Urkel, like you look at Jaleel White, I don't see Steve Urkel until he's dressed like Steve Urkel, like the embodiment of Steve Urkel, the mannerisms that he had as
Mhm.
Steve Urkel. Like I don't when I look at other shows, not even just black shows, just like shows, period, I feel like he's embodied that particular character.
Right.
No one else could play Steve Urkel.
Well,
And that's a blessing and a curse too,
it
right?
is.
Because you can get easily typecast into that
Yeah.
type of role, and we've heard that not just from Jalil White, but also Alfonso Ribeiro
Yeah.
Yeah.
about his role as Carlton and how
Mhm.
that kind of segued him into that specific
Mhm.
lane where he felt like he couldn't get more roles or
Yep.
taken seriously as other things. But he's
Yeah.
immensely talented.
Yeah.
But I think once you do such a good job in that particular lane,
Mhm.
unfortunately, in the realm of Hollywood, they try to keep you there.
So that makes me wonder. There's that guy. Who was the guy that was on Jamie Foxx? The light skinned
Oh,
guy.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Braxton.
Yeah.
That happened to him as well. And Waldo, whatever his name was on Family Matters.
Yep.
That happened to him as well. So is it like a curse on that character typecast for black people? Like if you play like the nerdy black person or the ditzy black guy, then it's
I'm
like
gonna say it. I think
ahead.
in white mainstream Hollywood, it is, but I do think in a black centered film world, I do think there would be other opportunities for those characters or those actors to explore different ranges and characters. But that's exactly why it's important of us having control over our own narratives where
Yes.
we haven't before. And so I think when we can pinpoint those examples, those were situations where we were not necessarily at the forefront of our own storytelling.
Right.
So
I definitely agree. I feel like when we go and, go to films and audition for them and therefore, people who are white, they might see like, oh, I recognize you from that show and you played this type of character. So I think that translates to you being this type of character again. And there's not too many of them that might take an opportunity to be like, okay, well, let's hear them out. Maybe they will be better for this other character. Whereas, if we had more black owned studios, stuff like that, we might just be willing to be like, oh, I used to look up to you. I just want, let's have you audition and see what you're best at instead of just typecasting you. Or even if we just had the likes of a Jaleel White opening up their own studio, in a perfect world and being like, I felt like I was typecasted, so I'm going to hear everybody out and put them in the roles that they do well in.
But is it just a black thing though? Because I'm thinking of a certain show, so I'm thinking like Saved by the Bell with Screech, like pretty much that's what he's known for is Screech. I'm thinking of like that '70s show with Eric Foreman. Even though he's had his opportunities, he's still Eric Foreman. And I'm thinking of Kramer, even though he's not technically a nerd, but that type of character. You know what I mean?
Typecasting happens in the industry, but I feel like when you are black and there are limited black roles, we can see it at a higher rate than, they probably will see it for certain characters too, because I feel like there's already a limited amount of roles that they're going to give to black people. That's just, we know it. And when they've seen you in one thing and they got a role in mind, they'll be like, well, I know they'll already do good in this. And it's kind of like a writing you off type of thing, especially, like I said, there's limited roles. So I think there's probably a higher rate of it if I had to guess. And I would say that I'd love to see the actual data of, how much that's happening, for each of the races.
I think too that we understand the diversity within our own culture. We understand that that blackness is not a monolith.
Right.
But I think from the outside looking in, they might not understand the way that diversity shows up intraculturally, which is why we need to be at these writing rooms and at these tables to produce these characters that exist so that that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha. Well, let's go on a lighter note. So let's talk about. So since I brought this up, the reason I brought this up was to segue into this. So, top 5 black sitcoms of all time.
oof.
This is a tough one.
I got at least. I got a
Do
couple.
you guys need a few moments? Or
No. I'm
Okay,
gonna
go
start
ahead.
throwing them out. First off, top, we're gonna go ahead and give "And Living Single" its flowers because you hear about what shocked me is I heard that Friends copied their storyline directly, and they got all this blow up and fame and notoriety that "And Living Single" didn't get necessarily, but they were the blueprint. And to this day, like I said, you can pop on an episode any season. Well, maybe
Right.
not season 5, but that's another story. but it's still just as funny. So yeah, I would say Living Single,
Okay.
Fresh Prince. Y'all rocking with Fresh Prince? Who
Oh,
else?
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
Who else y'all got on the list?
Martin, of course.
Hold on, you gotta say your top five though.
I gotta say my top 5.
Mhm.
Okay. Fresh Prince, Living Single. Are we talking about throwbacks or are we also including
No, all
contemporary?
time, like every,
All time,
like all time.
This era, this decade, and
To-
oh,
To
To the
but
beginning
hold
of
on.
Black shows.
Hold on. So you saying because that means you got to throw in there Sanford and Sons. You got to keep
Yeah.
that in mind too.
Yeah,
That's
all of
true.
them.
The
Okay.
Jeffersons.
All of them. It's not yours. All time.
All time.
All
Yeah.
time.
Okay, so I got to rethink this
That's true.
because I gotta say the Sanford and Sons.
That's
I'm
true.
sorry,
That's true.
it's one of the greats.
Okay.
It's true.
I'll say like for you specifically, not just like with the culture things or like
Okay.
impact on black television film. I mean, like for you, what's your top
Personally.
five personally?
Okay.
Yeah.
I would
All
ask-
right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I
go ahead.
think, okay, my first one is gonna be Fresh Prince of Bel Air. That one that's my show, my favorite one of all time. Period. So Fresh Prince of Bel Air is my first. My second one will probably surprise you, but it's In Living Color. I was not alive for In Living Color,
That's
but
a
my
sketch
mom.
show.
It's a black
still a
sketch show.
series.
I had not seen a black sketch show, and my mom had it on one time. I'm like, "What's this?" And she said, "It's In Living Color." And I watched that, and I'm like, "This is funny." And like,
Okay.
literally, if somebody's doing some stuff that I, as a black person, would not do, it's like, "Homie, don't play that." Like,
Okay.
I will say certain quotes and stuff, and yeah, that was my show. So for me, I would like to include In Living Color as my black show.
Okay.
Period.
I would say my third one is, this is tough. I'm gonna go actually Family Matters for my third one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fourth one, My Wife and Kids. And fifth
I feel
one,
like that's underrated.
it is.
Yeah.
But for me, I love that show. Fifth one, this is tough. I feel like I will go ahead and. Oh, this is so difficult. Okay, I think fifth one, I have to go. I think I'm gonna do Sanford and Son. Yeah, I would watch that with my dad, and it's like it was an older one too. So I just have memories as a kid watching that, and there were certain things that were just funny, and other things he would explain at the time, and I just have good memories and fond memories of it. So probably Sanford and Son.
Okay. Man, I'm about to say my number one would have to be Blackish. Because it hits all the marks. Like you just every episode, every season, it just seems like they hit it. They know when to go serious drama. They know when to hit you with some history.
Yeah.
They know when to just like it felt like home. It felt like a modern day of the Bill Cosby Show.
That's interesting.
In which I would also have to say that's one of my top five as well. Sanford and Sons would be another one, so that leaves me with two more, in which I would have to throw in there Fresh Prince and Martin.
Okay.
All right, that's good. I'm gonna say, so again, I've already said Fresh Prince. I've already said Living Single. Jeffersons for sure. Sanford and Son. I was raised on those. My parents still watch them daily. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and jump to a contemporary one that was just so well executed. If you've seen the revamp of Fresh Prince, which is called Bel Air,
That's a good one.
so well done. The storylines, the acting. I mean, just they brought it.
So are
They
you
brought it.
including that or?
I'm gonna
Okay,
throw that
so
one in.
yeah.
I'm gonna throw the
Oh,
new
you got
contender in
cheat,
on the
yeah.
table.
All right. So that's
you.
Was that
is
five?
that
Right?
mine?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you.
So mine will be Fresh Prince, the Wayans Bros, Family Matters, Martin, and then this won't be out of left field, but I think I'm gonna put it in my top five anyways. The Miss Pat Show. Now,
I like the
I
Miss
haven't
Pat
watched it
show.
yet.
I ain't gonna
Yeah,
hold
Miss
you.
Pat.
I like Miss
Oh,
Pat.
Miss Pat.
Miss Pat, yeah, the Miss
Okay.
Pat Show.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
good.
have to watch it now.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
a
good.
little, you know.
It's adult comedy.
Yeah, yeah, but it does. But the crazy part is, like, it has strong messages
Mhm.
behind it, especially like this last season. I just watched it, kind of like that last episode. I would say was on par, like the acting was on par with the Fresh Prince episode with Will's dead.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it
That's
was.
a great episode.
I was like, are they
It was
like?
heavy.
They
Yeah.
acted the house
Like I had
down.
chills.
Yeah,
I was like, dang, like are they like it seemed
the
real?
cast brought it.
Yeah,
They brought it.
yeah. I definitely.
That's
Is
a
that
good
the-
one.
Is that the one with the? Because I think I saw a clip going around,
Mhm.
and people was like, it was going around within the black circle, and it was like, man, the acting in this scene was like crazy. But it was the guy, the young man, he was getting ready to go out the door to go visit like his somebody in jail or somebody was dead. Something
Yeah.
happened.
I think I know it. It was like he was supposed to visit his father or something, and the mother, she came in and she didn't want him to visit him for some reason or something like
Yeah.
that. I saw it on
Mhm.
TikTok.
Okay, yeah, I saw that clip too. I don't know, is that the same?
Is that the show?
Yeah, I think it's
I
the
think
same.
that's- yeah.
Yeah,
Is
but
that,
I haven't.
the episode. That gotta be the episode. Because
Okay.
it was heavy. I was like, yo, they.
I didn't know what the show was for, but I do remember what you're talking about. It was like the
Yeah.
son wanted to see it. The mother was like trying to prevent him or something. It's
Yeah.
been a minute since I saw that
Yeah,
going
yeah.
around though.
It's a good
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I just don't want to spoil anything. But
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
Now you
yeah.
gotta be curious.
Can't
like,
even
that's on
elaborate
point.
for real, but yeah.
Yeah, that's but I didn't see on the crazy part is I didn't see on social media though. So, but I'm pretty sure just based on everything you guys are saying, it's the same.
And it's like there's like 3 seasons out now. Like
Three or four.
You know
Yeah.
how many episodes per season?
I think I'm gonna say
Uh,
10.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good amount.
That
Yeah.
is good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's good. So black content is being made still.
yeah, for sure,
Absolutely.
for sure. So yeah, man, that's my top 5. Anybody have any like honorable mentions you want to throw in there?
Ooh, honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
I have to say a different world.
I was gonna
That's
say
good.
that.
Definitely
Yeah,
different. I don't
It
know
was
why I didn't say that
close.
before.
It was
That's
close.
definitely in my top 5.
Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I was
Um,
young when that came out, and for me, that was like a peep into like the HBCU college life. That was like
Mhm.
off in the
Man.
distance for me. I was like, man, that's what college life is like. Wow.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I threw in a Miss Pat show a little bit too early. I'm thinking because I'm trying to
but
think
it's
of
what
like
comes to mind first. So like, it really does impact you.
I'm trying to think of shows like
Throwback
this,
classics.
no, like shows like so like when Netflix or Hulu would have like they started showing more of those black shows like Fresh
Mhm.
Prince and stuff like that. I'm like, dang, all my shows starting to come on streaming platforms. All the ones except for the Steve Harvey show was one that like I like the Steve Harvey show.
I actually
Yeah.
never like fully watched that. I probably caught a couple episodes in reruns, but I actually never fully got through that. and
Man, I
watched
used to
it.
love coming home from middle school watching the reruns of the Steve Harvey show. That'd be
Yeah.
mine.
It was okay for
Yeah,
me. It's
it was.
but what I will say, since we mentioned Steve Harvey, I got to throw in his Homeboy because I really do love the show. And I didn't think I would like it as much as I do, but The Neighborhood was really
Oh
That's-
yeah,
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
with
Mhm.
Cedric. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
And I don't know, and I don't know,
Sorry,
and I
I'm
don't know that I can
thinking
call it
You gotta watch
fully
it, it's
a
good.
black show because it's not fully a
Nah.
black show, but it does center
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
black neighborhood, black characters, and essentially it's like a fish out of water kind of show with this new white family moving into this black
Mhm.
neighborhood.
about it. Okay.
So-
okay.
I
I
have
get
to. I think I might have to change one of mine because I just thought about the Parkers and
True.
the Parkers. I think it has to take Sanford and Son because
Ooh.
I went back. I remember seeing it as a kid. Some of the jokes just wasn't landing as a kid, obviously.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when they put it on Netflix, I went back and started watching it. And I was up till like 2 a.m. every day during the pandemic watching it. And that has to take its place now because that was funny to me. I
was.
remember just getting weak and I watched the whole series through there. Like, so that's gonna take my next spot or honorable mention, but that was the Parkers. Moesha, I like Moesha. Shout out to
Yeah.
them. Shout out to Insecure.
Moesha.
Yeah.
Insecure.
Oh,
yeah. What was
God.
yeah.
Is that a
Can't miss
sitcom
one.
though? I feel like that's
It's a
a
series.
It's considered a
It's a
sitcom.
series, yeah.
It's considered like a
Okay.
comedy.
5
Okay.
seasons. Strong.
Well, when you
Okay.
say sitcom, of course, that
I feel
does
like the
make it seem
traditional-
like,
True.
yeah, traditional.
Yeah, it's if you want
True.
traditional or not.
Right. But it's like it's still like as you mentioned, like there's heavy moments within sitcoms as well, like where they can go for like 3 episodes where it's just heavy. So it still makes it a sitcom, but it's more like a drama. But let me ask you, ladies, did you all like watch Sister Sister?
Oh, of
Mm.
Oh
course.
yeah, I love Sister
Go
Sister.
home, Roger. Yeah, absolutely. That was another one of my that would probably be one of my honorable mentions because I
Uh-huh.
was faithful on T and Tamara
Yeah.
growing up as a kid.
And it still holds because like my daughter, she got put on to sisters, and she binge watched all of it.
And if you're gonna
It's
mention
good.
that, then you gotta throw in Smart Guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
too.
Smart Guy
Guy
was
too.
a
Yeah.
great show
That,
too.
that was my dad's show.
That was
my
mine,
dad
too.
loves funny little kids.
Yeah. Smart Guy was a good one.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm just thinking of ones like 1-on-1.
Oh, that was
Everybody
another one.
Hates Chris.
Everybody Hates Chris was a good one.
The Bernie
too.
Mac show.
Bernie Mac,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
You
watching
gotta-
that again
you
right
gotta
now.
put Bernie Mac show in the
Oh,
top
yeah.
5.
I feel
I
like
got
the
it,
Bernie
yeah.
Mac show was like the foundation of Blackish.
Okay.
It
I can
felt
see
like,
that.
like
Yeah.
Blackish kind of feel like it held that it was like a higher tier level of like the way they shot it. It wasn't like your regular like.
I can see what you
Bel
mean.
Air.
Mhm.
So not Bel Air, but Fresh Prince show where it's like you got your set stage. It was like they moved throughout the house, they moved throughout the neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
it felt lived in. But I think Bernie Mac was like definitely
Facts.
one of those.
No, I feel like one that doesn't really get much love is The Parenthood with
Yeah,
Robert
with
Townsend.
Robert Townsend.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? I just saw that. Where did it come back? It's like it's on Tubi. It might be Tubi.
It's on
Yeah.
Tubi
Yeah.
now because
But-
Yeah.
there was like a scene going around, and I had to look up
Oh,
the show.
Nicholas. Is that
Yeah,
the one?
I saw that scene. I was like, "What show is this?" And so they said it was on Tubi, and I was like, "I gotta go back and watch this." I never had heard of it.
Man, and every black girl wanted to be Zarya. She always had the
Oh,
fresh
she was-
hairstyle.
she
She
was
was
bad.
gorgeous.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
What about Rock?
Oh, that's a throwback.
I
Throwback.
I
I've-
seen clips of it, but I
I've
haven't like
seen
really
Rock.
seen-
It's been forever though since I've seen
What
Rock.
is Rock? What is it about? What's the gist?
It's like a he's a garbage man, but he's like the family, like not family guy, but family guy. It's all about family. And
Mhm.
It's about
Yeah.
it's
And he's like, and it's like about the
He's a man.
community,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like respected in the community, and
very
it's,
message driven.
yeah.
Very message driven.
Mhm.
Almost kind of like Good Times,
Mhm.
but more modern for that time in which it came out.
And not as compromising as Good Times was.
Mhm.
It's Good Times. Good
You know-
Times was Good Times.
Do you guys watch the Hughleys by any chance? The Hughleys.
I don't think
I don't think so.
Like with D.O. Hughley, he had his own show. His own, you know what D.O.
Yeah,
I know who he is,
Yeah.
but I didn't know he had his own show.
Yeah.
The show.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was supposed to be streaming on Netflix, but for some reason
I'm gonna
it's
have a
not.
lot of shows to catch up
Sometimes
on.
I'll watch it on YouTube and stuff, but I just have like fond memories watching that show before I got on to school or before I got on the bus to go to school.
Yeah,
I'll catch it in the morning.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One I keep hearing about too that I haven't seen yet is the Upshaws.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
I keep hearing about the Upshaws. It's on my list for sure.
It's a good one.
Oh, Mike Epps?
Yeah, when
Mhm.
he came to Cincinnati and he was doing stand up comedy, and I went to go see him, and he was talking about they were filming the new season, and it was truly like really cool to get to see him talk about his passion for the show, and you
Yeah.
could tell he's really passionate about putting it on and making it like the best each season, better than the next, and I
Right.
really like to see that passion from him, and I really like the show. Like it's definitely, it has Wanda Sykes in it, and it has its like serious moments, and it has like they had relationship issues in it. I don't want to give too much away, but like it's really funny and it has some real moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Regine from I can't think of
Yes,
her- from Living
Regine's on
Single
there.
plays in there too. Yeah,
Wow. So another show I mentioned, it may not be a sitcom or considered a sitcom, but I love Atlanta.
Oh yeah,
Atlanta's
Yeah.
definitely got to be on the list for something because
Is it for
it,
something?
I feel like-
it was
Yeah.
really
It was so good.
really good. I personally loved season, was it 3, where they were, was that the one where they were traveling? It's like you went back and forth between the standalone episodes and then like the
Yes.
continuation
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
story. That was really cool and really well done. But I ain't gonna hold you. The last season, I was just like,
It didn't hit.
no, I was.
I feel like it
not-
did.
In comparison, it was literally like season 4 for me, like number 4 out of all seasons.
I don't know, man.
I got a hot take.
Whichever one they were
I
in.
couldn't do it. I
Okay.
didn't like it.
You didn't like none of it this season?
It had funny moments. Like there was this
Okay.
hospital scene where they were in the hospital and the dude he started dating like this person and he thought the person, I think he thought he ended up being like a trans person, and he was trying to comfort him and stuff. Like it has its moments, but it has other moments too where I'm like, I don't really, I don't get anything. And
Let me
it
ask
has.
you this: did you watch the Tyler Perry episode?
I did not.
Do yourself a big favor
And watch that episode?
Watch that episode.
It definitely has
That was
its
season 4,
episodes.
wasn't it?
I think my favorite one was Trinity to the
Or was it 3?
Bone, when the little boy's nanny passes away.
Yes.
And they go to the, you're scaring the white people.
Man, I like the
That was-
FUBU episode. Y'all remember that one?
Oh yeah, when it was the Central
It
Park
was-
Five.
Yeah, when it was when it was kids, when they went back as kids, or it went back in time where so basically I forget Donald Glover's character's name.
Aaron?
His name is not Aaron.
Not in Atlanta?
No, it wasn't Aaron. It was Ern.
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 Yeah. So Ern and Paperboy, they were like kids. And so Ern, his mom bought him some like a FUBU shirt from like TJ Maxx or something like that. And it was like trying to see if his FUBU was real.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, yeah, it kind of like it's bad, but it kind of like made reminiscences when we were kids,
Yeah.
At least during that time, I feel
Yes.
like that was like more in my ear. But
I just wish there was more cohesion in the storytelling, because there were parts, like you said, that just
Yeah.
felt really off, just out of place. But no, it definitely had it made its mark
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep. I had high hopes for the Vince show that was on Netflix that people were like, oh, that's gonna be
What
take-
show was it?
I think it's called Vince Staples.
Yes. That one I gave it a try, and it gave me that same feeling
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
there's funny moments. Like there was one moment they went to a family reunion and like they get into a fight. Yes,
Wait,
that
what
was
show was
that
this?
part. Vince Staples show.
Oh,
That part was funny. They're
okay.
fighting over, in the family reunion. That's real stuff. And then there was other parts. There was like they went to a carnival somehow, and I was
Yeah.
like, "What is going on? I don't
Yeah.
know."
But I love Atlanta. Like Atlanta for me is like that level of writing and like comedy that I like to like think of. It's like the stuff that make you think, or like the hidden Easter eggs where it's like culturally hidden,
Mhm.
or like just culturally hidden, like things that only people who are cultured know.
Yeah.
right.
And I do love the way too that he took some very serious cultural moments and reimagined them. So if you remember, there was a real life situation where it was like, remember during the pandemic, or maybe before the pandemic, there was like a viral picture of a little boy that was crying. I had a sign that said free hugs.
Yes.
And that same little boy was in a foster home with white mothers, and the women drove themselves and the children, I think, off of a cliff
Yep.
and ended their life. So he does an episode where it sets up that same kind of scenario, but this time the black kids escape and they drive the cliff by themselves.
Yeah.
So I do love the reimagining
Yep.
that we were able to do in some of those shows. And same thing with like Lake Lanier, and he did very,
Lanier
very,
was
that was crazy. But he did a very, very good job of putting those notable moments, those cultural relevant moments in there, and creating that story that only in a way that we can, that we
Right.
can retell the
Right.
story.
And then he also dipped his toe, which I really love, in the horror with Teddy
Yeah.
Perkins. That episode was just like
I was so
Oh.
thrown off by that episode.
you were.
Yeah.
I was throwing up too, but I loved it. Like it left the impact on me. Where I was like, yo, like Donald Glover could be
The
on
next
par
Jordan
with,
Peele.
like with Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
Like it gave
Yeah.
me that feeling of like get out. I'm like, dude, you need to get out that mansion. Like
Yeah.
leave, forget the piano, get out. Like
Yeah.
he was on that level.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's circle back to before we wrap up. Let's circle back to Family Matters. Let's talk about what's your guys' favorite episode of Family Matters. Would you say? Shout out to Jaleel White for sparking this conversation too. By the way.
Yeah.
For sure. Favorite episode.
Let's start off with Michaela.
I think my favorite episode is it's probably, so this is a little bit slightly later. This is when Myra, rest in peace to the actress,
Yeah.
kind of first came onto the scene, and they
Mhm.
were like, basically she was trying to convince him to be her convince him to, be her boyfriend and them to be in a relationship. And I just remember, when he finally like kind of agreed to it, how happy she was, because I kind of was rooting for them. So
Yeah.
that was my favorite episode because I liked how they in my head had finally gotten together, and she was just
Mm.
a funny character to me. Like she was just really funny how she would act with him. She could kind of match his nerd, if you will. And yeah, basically until the last season, I was for them too.
Well, okay. Since you brought that up, I always felt like Myra was a better fit like I always wanted him to be with Myra.
Yeah.
We all did.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
was all rooting for him.
She
and
was
Myra.
bubbly,
Mhm.
nerdy, like
Yeah.
I said, matched it.
She matched his
him.
nerd.
Right.
And it
She
was
elevated
genuine.
his fly too.
Mhm.
For real,
Yeah,
for
Yeah.
real.
Oh yeah. I mean, he glowed up big time.
And she
Yeah.
made a good argument too of like she liked him for who he was. He didn't
Right.
have to be Stefan.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like how that ended up. That was diabolical.
The whole Stefan transformation.
y'all
thing.
not
Nah, I'm
y'all
talking
not gonna
about like
like
the,
the
the
ending.
last season where
Oh.
Laura and Steve get together and he basically breaks up with Myra to get with
Yeah.
Laura.
The whole last season was because we ain't have Harriet for real.
Oh yeah.
We got an
yeah.
imposter.
What happened to little
and then-
Richie? It was just so
Yeah.
many questions that
3J
needed
came out of
answered.
nowhere.
It's like, oh, okay, we got another kid.
All right.
Yeah, I would have to say for me, I say one of the standout episodes was, gosh, it's so many when he played like Myrtle.
Yes.
And he played the robot. Like when he was other characters, when he played Stefan, like
Yeah.
whenever they were in the episode, I was like, he's shining. Like, and I love those episodes, like those standout moments.
Yeah.
I think for me, the episode that I remember most that stands out was the time when Eddie is out and he gets profiled by some white cops,
Mm.
and then his dad finds out about it
Mhm.
and goes in. Yeah, I was like, big shout out to Carl, big Carl, not the little one.
Right.
But I think I really loved those black dad archetypes of those sitcoms during that time, and
Mhm.
Carl Winslow was definitely one of the standout dads of
Oh,
the
yeah.
90s
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
sure.
For me, the Steve episodes when he was a doll. Steve. You guys remember
I
that?
don't
was a
remember
doll.
that one.
You don't remember Steve when he was a doll? Like the Halloween episodes?
Oh, I think I do remember that now that you mentioned it.
Okay. I'll say if you guys don't remember that one. The one where he when Laura's friend gets shot.
Oh,
I like that episode.
Vaguely remember that.
that's a yeah.
Yeah.
They had some. They also had some heavy ones because like
Yeah.
I was
They
thinking
did.
about when they had the N word on poor Laura's locker, and yeah, they had some heavy
Yeah.
ones too.
Wow. So let me ask you this question: do you think that compared to where we are now, back to those retro sitcoms, do you think that that generation was stronger with the black message, or do we have a stronger message today or impact? Because you know the whole woke
Mhm.
culture and stuff that's out there, people trying to say, oh, you know what, the DEI and all that type of stuff. So it's like we have to create our own. Are we watering down our message? Like, are we going to be able to put the N word on lockers or be able to say it on like national television, not just like Netflix?
I feel like we definitely can still say that, type of stuff or do art of expression that way. I think for me, the actual problem that I've kind of noticed was that it doesn't seem like there's as many black shows or black movies anymore. Like when I see them and they're telling these great messages and they're doing these great things like with Bel Air. They're covering some heavy stuff, some stuff we've never covered before with black people, especially in the regards of mental health. But I'm not seeing as many shows as the 90s. I literally was just watching 90s movies and I'm seeing all these lists of black movies that I got to watch from the 90s and, some from the 80s. And I'm seeing all the TV shows and I'm like, what happened? We don't have as many. Like we are listing a bunch of 90s, and older shows, and there's not a whole lot of 20s or 2010 black shows that are, the same quantity. We don't have the same quantity anymore. And I guess that's my question. What happened?
I think we do. I think there are a ton, and I know like a lot of them I'm forgetting, and I know I'm going to leave here and be like, oh, I should have thought of that one and that one. But I will say, I think those older shows, they definitely set the foundation of our storytelling, and I do think that now we actually have even more liberty and creator freedom to tell our stories authentically. Because I think before there was a lot of red tape, and you got to go through this channel to do that. But now with the expansion of technology and being able to put your own series on YouTube or behind a paywall, there's so many different ways to tell our stories. But I do think you make a really good point about the distribution and the accessibility of our stories and how readily available they are for us to be not only in that creative position to tell them, but also to have them showcased on larger platforms.
Yeah, I just feel like as far as like the new content that's coming out with our society the way that we are, it's kind of like, 30 seconds or less, or it's pretty much gone. So I feel like we can definitely spread the message. Like, but I feel like some people might say, oh, this, like Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? It's, during the pandemic, and now,
Yeah.
that's just, oh, like,
To
what's
who
new?
though? I think is
Yeah,
you
that
have to ask, because I think to Black people and Black culture, Black
Yeah,
life has always mattered,
right.
and we even have to be very careful in how we let mainstream messages affect us, because being woke has never been a
Mm-hmm.
bad thing, and it's always
yes.
meant being aware,
Yes. Yes.
staying aware of what's happening around you.
Mm.
And so for that to be co-opted and that narrative to be taken now on as something that is to be ashamed of or to be mocked or mimicked, it's just it's the same old banana in the tailpipe that's always happened, where our movements and our messages get refunneled and reshaped into something else.
Yeah.
So I think it's our responsibility as Black creators to double down on DE&I, on wokeness, and making sure that people still have that safe space where we can be fully aware and fully authentic within our awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, I just feel like with the older shows, we put more value into it, especially when it came down to those moments where it's just like it, like the black episode. One episode that I could think of is like the different world episode where they were fighting at the football game and somebody was about to spray paint the N word on his car and they end up going to jail. Like those type of
Mhm.
episodes, I think us in our era, we can sit down with our children, and then just go over those episodes with them and watch as a family and hold value to that. But I feel like as time goes on, like that's gonna get lost in the wind. Now it's like we gotta come up with some new content that can help spread those messages before it gets lost. Is
Yeah.
my opinion.
I just think certain ones won't ever get lost. That the father episode in the Fresh Prince from earlier, that's never going to get lost.
Mhm.
There's just certain things I feel like that's going to be remembered throughout history.
Yeah.
And if we remember serious moments only, that's going to be one moment that a lot of people are going to remember and a lot of people are going to relate to. And I think, there's other shows that's going to have those moments too that we're going to go back. It's a different world. They have plenty of moments too that I would definitely go back to if I needed to talk about certain things with my child. And I think certain important messages, they're just going to be remembered. They've made their mark on Black history.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Wolf Pack. I am your host, Lavelle Rebels. I'll let y'all, do your outros.
Well, I am Michaela Boyd, and you can follow me at MCB Cinema on Instagram and YouTube.
I'm Bernard Fields. You can follow me. Just Google my name, Bernard Fields, and all of the socials will pop up. It's too many to list.
I'm Keisa Carroll, KEISA _ speaks at Instagram.
All the socials.
We don't do that other one anymore, formerly known as Twitter. But
Oh.
Threads, you can find me on Threads, and Keisa Carroll on Facebook.
And I'm Lavelle Rebels. You can find me Lavelle Rebels on all platforms. I don't really know my handle names or nothing like that. But also catch my show, PFT Fresh Film Talk. That's my podcast. And remember, stay humble, stay fly, stay
Stay
fresh. Peace.
Love it.